It would be my pleasure. Hello, everybody. My name is Dwight Franklin, and I am having the pleasure of introducing a good friend of mine tonight. She is a licensed mental health counselor, and she's the owner of the Kids Therapy Center in Bismarck, North Dakota. And she works with a lot of kids and adults that have some pretty tremendous health concerns. And so she does just a wonderful job at helping them. So I know she'll be able to help us tonight too. So please help me welcome the great Valerie Meyers.
Thank you. Yeah, this is exciting. I have done less trainings because of everything going on, right? So I'm like, hey, we got to get back into the grind. This will be great. Let's see if I can get it to work. All right, so like Dr. Dwight said, I am Val Meyers and I'm from Bismarck, North Dakota. By trade, I'm a mental health counselor, and about 8 years ago now, I decided to be an integrative mental health counselor. So I do all this training related to nutrition and genetics and food and testing and stuff to help mental health. And know that tonight when I talk about my stories and products and whatnot, none of this, it's our typical FDA disclaimer. We're not here to treat, diagnose, cure, or prevent any disease. We're here to give you other education. All right, so, like I said, by trade, I'm a mental health counselor. I've been a counselor for 15 years. 10 years of that, I was specifically a forensic counselor for child sexual abuse. So I do all this training and testifying in court for childhood treatment of trauma, right? Well, and I still do some of that, but my passion has really become the wellness and the nutrition and whatnot. And that's because of my own personal story. My daughter, who's now 15, her name's Alexis. I have a son too, Tyler, who's 13. She was actually born in Minneapolis. I lived there for a good 10 years and then moved back here because this is my hometown. She was born your typical acid reflux fussy colicky baby, right? And at the time, they're just like, here's some medicine, and that was really it, right? I knew nothing. Well, as she continued to get older, I was seeing sensory issues and anxiety and sleep issues and constipation and all these things. And when she was about 7, the doctor said, I think it's time for medicine. And I was like, not happening. So we continued to do testing, and here there was not really a lot of people that knew the holistic approach of things. So I actually ended up going back to Minneapolis. I did start with your basic gastro testing. They told me that everything seemed fine. So on my way home, I called my friend Lisa Watkins, and she had just started in Market America at the time, and she's a functional medicine mental health nurse practitioner. She said, hey, why don't we try some of these digestive enzymes and aloe juice and see what happens? So I tried the DNA digestive enzymes, the ultimatealoe juice, and I believe it was the Multi-Plus and maybe OPC within a short period of time. And within 3 weeks, I had a totally different child. She went from not sleeping through the night to sleeping through the night. She went from being clingy and scared of a lot of things to being your typical now teenager, right? We did find out through this process, she was actually highly sensitive to dairy. She reacts to grain some, and she had some methylation issues, which we'll talk about genes. And so within this, I couldn't believe how quickly my daughter changed from just a few products and cleaning up her diet. So by the end of the summer, it was May into August, I'm like, all right, what do I need to do to help other people do this? And I kept sending everybody to Lisa Watkins, right? Let's just go back to Lisa. And finally she came to me and she's like, you need to stop, right? You just need to do this. And then that's when I jumped forward and went on with everything. So what I'm going to talk about tonight is kind of the ins and outs of some of the things that I do. Tonight is very basic because it's only going to be half hour, 40 minutes. And we do teach on this all day long, basically, right? We have a whole class on this. But, really, there's no health without mental health, right? My daughter, she couldn't regulate her emotions. She had a hard time with friends. She wasn't sleeping. She wasn't eating right. She was doing all these things. We're not functioning properly. Our lives were around her moods, and that our life has totally changed when we look back at it because of just changing our diet and adding in nutrition. So when I think of mental health, I do think of, are we having difficulty sleeping? Is there defiance? Are we just brain dead from electronics? But how are we really doing? It seems like a lot of people are coming to me and they're anxious, they're not focusing, they're low mood, they're irritable, they're stuck on their feelings, they're negative. A lot of people are lonely right now, they're not sleeping properly, and they're scared, right? So with that, we start to dig in, what are their stressors of their body? How are they overflowing? What's going on? So when I get somebody and they tell me that they're defiant or they have sensory issues or anxiety or depression, I look at that as symptoms that they're overflowing someplace in their body. And so I want to move forward with that. And so when I see overflowing, what that is telling me is there's inflammation. There might be nutritional deficits. They might be reacting to food. They might not be releasing toxins properly and so forth. And so I want to get that body to be working the way that it should. So just a few pointers that when we're thinking of mental health, I right away think of the gut-brain connection. You know, 80–90% of our neurotransmitters are in the digestive tract. So when somebody comes to me about mental health and depression, anxiety, stuff like that, my first thought is what's going on with their gut. Not what kind of chemical imbalance is going on with the brain, what is going on with their gut. And that is probably the number one thing I want everyone to take away tonight is what is going on with that gut. To think of the villi within our digestive tract, if they're inflamed like the right, or if they're functioning right like the upper center. And these help break down our food and absorb the nutrients, and if there's inflammation, they're not getting that. And so sometimes it's just getting this part of the body to work properly, and we see symptoms decrease because their body's starting to work properly. So what impacts the body? You know, that's probably been the number one question lately is what should I be looking for? What can I do? What areas of the body are going on? The digestive tract is huge, but what I really want them to know is let's look at some of the genetics. Let's look at nutrition. How's sleep? How is eating? What's their stress level like? What's their exercise like? What's their environment like, right? So there's a variety of things that we can look at. So let's start with genetics. Genetics are actually impacted by a variety of things. We call these the metabolical genes. And within the gene SNP that we have here at the Nutrimetrics family, it looks at these genes. Some of the things that impact our genes is diet, sleep, stress, toxins, nutraceuticals, and exercise. So when somebody comes to me, I might not just focus on diet. Do I think diet has a huge role in it? Absolutely. But we can work on some of these other areas to better help our patients as well. So the testing, what is it? Just to give you an example, it's called the gene SNP. To understand that 99.9% of us is actually the same, and there's just very little that's different. But in the gene SNP, you get a variety of education to help you understand it. We look at 48 genes, 61 SNPs, and the areas that we look at, my favorite, of course, mental health, gut health, immunity, heart health, hormones, methylation, stuff like that, detoxification. And then it kind of will lay out what are some of the diet for it, right? So do you need low fat, high fat, low carb, high carb, low protein, high protein? The gene SNP will help us lay that out for you. And then it'll help us determine what type of exercise is best, yoga, HIIT, cardio, and so forth. This allows us to give your genes the best expression for it, for your body. So what are some of the genes that I might look at? So here's a variety of the genes that are related to mental health that I specifically look for. Just to give you an example, MTHFR is probably one of the more popular ones that people may know of when they come to me and understand this. And this is basically where they're not metabolizing their B vitamins properly. And just from that, it can increase a variety of other symptoms. Some of the biggest symptoms that I see with this are like your anxiety, you know, you're not sleeping well, things like that, and stuff like that. So anxiety and depression is common. We commonly see that with MTHFR, and it's just getting the body to absorb those B vitamins properly, and detox the body properly. COMT-A, this one we might see with people that are tendency to overeat. We see this with addictive behaviors, anxiety, OCD, bipolar, panic, stuff like that. They tend to have a low pain tolerance. On the flip side, we have the COMT-GG, and this is where they might have some very similar symptoms, but they have a higher pain tolerance. The BDNF one, BDNF is one that I look for, and typically this is the one I'm looking for when they have difficulty learning from their mistakes, right? So when I get a 2-year-old in the clinic, or they've been kicked out of a ton of daycares, and then the parents are like, I feel like I'm a good parent and nothing's really happened in their life. Why are they so naughty, right? And really, we're starting to look at some genes that it could be. What helps with us is that I might have somebody with MTHFR and they're naughty because they're reacting more to their food, right? They're low on B vitamins. Then I might get somebody who's on the BDNF more that way, and that will help me understand that way. And I'm going to push exercise and omegas that way, right? But I might get somebody with both, and then they have to follow both regimens. So the testing and not guessing is really helpful for a lot of us practitioners. HTR2, this is our serotonin receptor. So I might see some of the depression type symptoms with that. ETV5, this is one of the, there's a few attention and focusing ones in there. This is one of them. But let's look at what we need to do. What is our plan? What should somebody do? Yep, diet's important, exercise is important. Again, having the right food, nutrients, supplementation, and having a healthy sleep cycle, all of these kind of go hand in hand and they work together. So with food, we teach people to eat real food. Let's eat whole food, real food, get rid of the chemicals, and to balance our blood sugars, right? So eating low glycemic is one of the ways that we teach. We do food sensitivity tests here, and so then we might bring in that, and we might also alter their diet per their gene SNP if they're doing that, and that can be very beneficial. One of the basic things that I see with blood sugars is like when somebody goes to work or they go to school, and within an hour they're fidgeting with everything, or they feel anxious, or and that is from their blood sugar dipping. Or we might see that right before lunch or at the end of the day. And so some of the things I do is I'm like, get rid of the grain for breakfast and increase protein, fruits, veggies for that breakfast meal so that you last longer. That little trick seems to help quite a few people. You know, and watching for toxins in food, telling people about dyes, reading ingredients and so forth is very beneficial with that. We actually sit down and teach our families some of that. The other thing that I talk about is that people need to be aware of is food sensitivities, right? So sometimes some of our top food sensitivities is wheat and dairy. I don't know about you guys, but in North Dakota, wheat's one of our top grain. I mean, we're a farming state. And we're a dairy state, so it's not uncommon that people here get frustrated with me when I say they should not be having wheat or dairy, but we're also a German state, and so to tell them that they should be eating their meat and potatoes and fruits and veggies, they can handle that too. Food is very stressful, and so sometimes that is why we have to supplement, because it's very stressful. But let's look at some of the basics of food sensitivities. Gluten is probably one of the ones I see most frequently. And what is this? This is when I see some of those skin issues, the black parts under their eyes, joint issues, and then like that slower cause and effect. I do this and then this happens, and they have a hard time with that. So we sometimes say gluten makes the frontal part of the brain like glue. It makes it sticky. It makes it so that it's not free flowing. And so then they have that harder time processing back and forth. We see it with autoimmune disorders, hormone issues, learning disabilities and whatnot. You know, typically with the MTHFR gene and some of those other methylator genes, they can't detox the toxins that come with grain. So they have to have a non-GMO. And typically we just say that grain isn't inflammatory, so let's just get rid of it. Some of the research behind gluten and mental illness is anxiety, social phobia, depression. You know, one of the holistic psychiatrists I follow, Dr. Kelly Brogan, her 30 days to no depression is getting rid of grain and dairy. That's what she does. You know, and that's pretty common in the mental health world when helping naturally. Now let's think of dairy sensitivities. When somebody comes to me and I ask them about when they were a baby, were they fussy? Did they sleep through the night? Do they have mood swings? Do they have digestive issues? Do they have a lot of sinus issues? Do they have bad breath? These are all some symptoms related to a dairy sensitivity. So in the end, when we start to educate people, the main one is looking for toxins within your household, from food to cleaning supplies and whatnot. So when I think of environmental toxins, our cleaning supplies, the clothes that we're wearing, the things that we're sitting on, eating off of, and all of that we want enzyme-based products. Within Market America, we have a SNAP line, and I just love it. Even with illness season or anything like that, I love that we have a disinfectant cleaner that we can use with everybody in all ages. But in the end, we are designed to eat, but we need more than food, and we know that. When I tell somebody, no more grain, no more dairy, no more Cheetos, it's time to eat some good food, that's hard for them. And food is addicting, so we want to add more to that for them, and that's when we bring in supplementation. When I first started Lexi, my daughter, on Isotonix line, I did look at other lines before I brought it into my clinic. We see, you know, my clinic in Bismarck, I have 10 therapists. I have another clinic about 2 hours away with 1 therapist. We see a lot of patients. And so I wanted the best for our families that we see. I also wanted it to be easy. What I liked about Nutrimetrics was there's no binders and fillers. The delivery system in an isotonic form is amazing. It is the same pressure as our insides. So when somebody takes it, they're likely to absorb most of the nutrients. Now, when we think of all the things, the basics of the body, where do we start? What do we do? And that is where we go back to the digestive tract. Let's start there, right? Especially if we're not going to test. If we're going to test, I still start with the digestive tract. I still start with some basic supplements, and I'm going to talk to you about a few of those. So in the digestive tract, some of the signs that you might see for poor digestive health is things like bloating, belching, the extended tummy, and so forth. Skin issues, that's all signs of poor digestive health. Within that, I might start with something called a digestive enzyme. And within Market America, we have 2 forms of digestive enzymes. We have your isotonic digestive enzyme, and then we have another product called the DNA digestive enzyme. And what digestive enzymes do is they actually help the upper part of the digestive tract. They help break down foods, they help bowel regularity, they help that stomach comfort, they help break down it so that you can absorb it properly. And there's a variety of them out there. And what I like about the DNA digestive enzyme is the blend allows us to help break down dairy and gluten. So when we have a lot of people sensitive to these, this is a great one to have. Now, with the other digestive enzyme, the isotonic digestive enzyme, I like that one too. That one comes in a packet. You can throw it in your purse or your bags and travel with it easily and whatnot. The next product, ultimatealoe juice, is probably one of our top products within the clinic, right? It helps support that healthy digestive tract, but it's also anti-inflammatory. It boosts the immune system, helps with bowel function, and it tastes good, right? You can get it in flavors like kiwi, strawberry, cranberry, apple, and so forth. This is one that I like because I can use it with all of our ages of children and adults that come within the clinic. It tastes good. I might use this for something that a child is reacting to food and helping get some of the inflammation down. So to remember though, when I'm thinking of a child reacting to food, that might also include that they're anxious, they're depressed, they're defiant. Those are symptoms to me, not behaviors. So I look at a child a little bit different than the average person. But this is a product that it still is one of my daughter's favorite products. The next piece would be a probiotic. The probiotic, getting those different bacteria in you. And we have probiotics from infancy all the way through adults. So we have a probiotic for all ages. The probiotics work for the lower part of the colon, and that helps with those bacteria again. Multivitamins. Multivitamins, there's a variety of multivitamins within our company. I'm going to just talk about my favorite one, and that is the DNA Multivitamin Plus. It is designed for children. It's in the DNA Miracles line. And what I love about it is that it has no copper and it has zinc, which we need. And why is that? Why do we need more zinc and no copper? And that is because of the science behind those on the autism spectrum. And we see that their zinc copper ratio is not balanced. Now, this multivitamin is great for even those that are not on the autism spectrum, right? It has your methyl B vitamins, so it's great for those with the MTHFR. You know, the other thing is that we are seeing in the mental health field, 80 to 90% have typically the MTHFR gene. So we're seeing that that is a popular one that we see. What I like, so when I think of this multivitamin, the Multivitamin Plus, I think of it as, if you're somebody who doesn't need iron, this is a great multivitamin for you. If you need iron, we have a great one. We have a couple of them that are great with iron in them. But so I use this one quite a bit. The zinc in it. So when our zinc is low and our copper is high, what we are seeing is, the research is telling us, is of course our immunity, you know, our memory, slow wound healing, depression, autism. You know, we're seeing that within these that we're seeing there's also low zinc to it. Zinc also increased taste buds. So when somebody comes to me and says they have a fussy eater, I like that for that one too, right? When you're working with children these days, we have a lot of fussy eaters. And that's pretty fun. And what's really fun is within a month's time, I have seen people tell me that they are seeing their children eat more between healing the digestive tract and adding the DNA Multi Plus. So some of my favorite combinations of starting somebody is digestive enzymes or aloe juice, the DNA Multi Plus, and another product I'm going to talk about here in a minute is OPC. Now, omegas is very important. Omegas is essentially great for heart, skin, mind. I use it for attention and focusing. I use it for neurotransmitter functioning. I use it for skin health and whatnot. But what is it saying in the mental health world? Depression, aggression, ADHD, memory. It is so fun to me when I can start a child on a proper dose of omega, and within a week's time, I can see the difference in their focusing. It is so fun because it changes their lives, that they realize what's going on around them. They're not as impulsive anymore. Their aggression is down, and they are learning better and understanding people more because they're focusing better. On the flip side of that, the other one that I use a lot for focusing is OPC with the pycnogenol. You know, OPC is an antioxidant, helps detoxify the body, but my favorite part, over 400 studies on the pycnogenol that's an ingredient within OPC. It is a pine bark. If you go to pycnogenol.org, you can see a variety of them. It helps with oxidative stress, which we also see a lot in the neurological world, like autism and so forth, right? So the study behind ADHD, this one's super fun too, just because of how it helps that brain fog and increases that attention once again for our kiddos or for our adults. Can't talk about mental health without talking about a B vitamin, right? B vitamins are wonderful. We typically start with the, you know, in the kids world, I start with the DNA Multi Plus. In the adult world, I start with the Daily Essentials kit, and that's because of the Isotonix, the activated B complex in it. With this, I will see at times the increase of energy, the decrease in stress symptoms, and so forth. When we are stressed, we deplete our B vitamins. So it's important that we increase our B vitamins in a time of stress. It is also to know that bees really help promote our cognitive function. So when I think of bees, I also think of our thoughts. So if you have those racing thoughts, a hard time falling asleep, you're a worrier, B vitamins are great to help calm that down. Now, I do not take a B vitamin at nighttime. I will give it to them in the daytime so that it builds that melatonin and serotonin by nighttime. So when somebody comes to me for sleep, I don't start with something at night all the time. I might start with this during the day. Now, I might start, though, with magnesium at night. Magnesium is one of the most essential minerals in our body. It helps us relax. It helps us with fatigue and anxiety. Again, basically, I think of magnesium as the flip side of B vitamins, that calming part of it, that relaxing piece of it. So when you get stressed and you have that tightness in the back of your neck, it can help just bring that down sometimes. So when I get somebody who has the tightness, the racing thoughts, the upset tummy maybe, I'm going to blend some magnesium and B complex for them to relax some. Again, it helps with the serotonin, which is our feel-good chemical in our body. We have an Isotonix magnesium within our Market America program. Okay, I'm kind of coming into an end here, but I love our curcumin. One of the things that I've seen over the 8 years now of using the supplements in my clinic is how much I use curcumin extreme and our TLS core when somebody feels like they're going to harm themselves. I don't know about in your guys' area, but around here, beds are hard to come by at a psychiatric unit. And we are on the rise again for suicide. The CDC released this week, Minnesota, North Dakota, there's quite a few states on the list of an increase in suicide already. And we're not even to winter, and that's what's really sad right now. Now, when I think of some of these things, it's that low energy, that wanting to harm themselves. And in our area, we have maybe 20 beds in the area, and the next place is 3 hours away, okay? So a lot of families don't want to be 3 hours away from their family. So they'll try to get medication if they can. Sometimes meds doesn't help. And hopefully it does, obviously, but this is another one that I might start to help them with. As a mental health professional, I do have to assess for suicide and provide safety for them if not. If I feel that they are not safe, I can have them transported even if they're 3 hours away, okay? So it's something to be very careful with. But the studies behind turmeric and depression and increasing serotonin are very good and very fabulous. They have now 5-year, 10-year studies around some of these things. And our curcumin extreme also has some selenium in it, which is another product that we use for depression. The strain specific that people need to know about is the BCM95. That is the specific strain that all of these studies are around. So don't just go out and buy turmeric at Walmart or wherever. Read your label to know what you're getting. All right, you want to learn more. There's more to do. And I have a few minutes for questions and whatnot, I believe. You can find me at the Kids Therapy Center. You can find the person who invited you today. Again, you can follow us on Facebook. And I'm going to be posting more videos. I'm hoping that some of the other people in the mental health field, like Dr. Dwight, does too. All right. Questions and whatnot.
Awesome. So why don't you go ahead and bring down your slides, and then we can kind of see everybody. And let's open it up to some questions, you guys. Perfect. There. See?
It's like what?
All right. So do we have any questions? That was some great information, Val. Oh my gosh. We're going to have
Thank you
you back because I know you could do a lot more. So we definitely have to have you back for another talk. So let's open up for some questions, you guys. I know we got some questions.
I have one question.
Sure.
Hi. Do you work with children that are nonverbal autistic? And do you have anything special you do for them?
Yes, we do. And every person is very individual, so I can't give just a regimen over it. To know that our DNA line is designed for those with metabolical issues, you know, so I always say to find a practitioner that is educated some in this field. Otherwise, that is the line that I tend to start with. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And Dr. Dwight is actually, if you're in Florida, is in the Orlando area as well. And he works with autism too, and in that area. So for any of you Florida people. You guys are awful quiet tonight. Got you all thinking.
Yeah, you know, I think like tonight was a great broad presentation of what it is our products can do. You're right. As we dive into it, let's, you know, you can focus on mental health is a big area, you know, so there's a lot that you can do to help with our products.
I have a question. I'm Carol down here in Inglewood, and this is curcumin extreme plus TLS core. Did I get that right?
Yeah, the curcumin extreme or our TLS core. Those are the two that I use quite a bit for adult depression.
Okay.
Yep.
That's just whether they need to be on the TLS program. Do you put them on that program with it, or?
Nope, great question. So TLS core actually boosts serotonin by 28%.
Wow.
Okay.
If you're part of the Market America family, you can see you can see some of the studies around it, or if you go to theshop.com and look at it, there's quite a few studies around it. Besides it helping our leptin and whatnot, it actually boosts serotonin quite a bit. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Just put the two together. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
All
Now,
right.
of course, if somebody's on medications and whatnot, please be careful. Our products are very safe, but we still have to be mindful.
Yeah. We always have to take that into account. Thank you so much. Phenomenal talk.
Okay.
Wow, that's awesome. Cheryl, I know you had a question.
Yeah, I have a question, and I know that this is tricky of how to ask it, so I don't want to trip you up or anything, but I just had a client that has a desire, and I think a lot of people do, that are on antidepressants. And when they want to come off, and of course we need to refer them back to their physician, so let me say that for you ahead of time.
Okay.
But I know that I have, you know, coached some people. So when because you're working in this field so much, is there a specific, like, do you sometimes get them going on the natural before starting to titrate down? Can you kind of address that without diagnosing, just like you know, kind of your thoughts on that? Because a lot of people do, they want to come off, and
Absolutely,
sometimes the doctors aren't really knowledgeable in that area as far as like working with their serotonin levels and D levels and that kind of stuff. Could you maybe speak to that a little bit?
Yes. Okay. So absolutely. I actually do work with quite a few doctors as we're doing this, because yes, I do have some doctors that are like, no way, right? But I do have some that will. Mm-hmm. So Lisa Watkins here is a nurse practitioner in mental health. And so she, you know, I might pass a lot of those to her too, but I do get a lot of kiddos that I might take, because I'm trained more in kiddos. She's trained more in adults in mental health, right? So it depends on kind of the age too. But we do start naturally you know, we start our supplements first. We start to all the other gene things. How's your stress level? How's your sleep? How's your stress, you know, meditation? What's your exercise like, right? We try to pick out all of those other things, boost all of that before we start playing with the meds, okay? With that, our labs are different than a medical doctor's, right? Here, everybody should get their vitamin D level tested, and they don't. We live in North Dakota, right? There's no, I mean, even if you think you're absorbing sun, we only get it 3 months out of the year. What are you talking about, right?
Yeah.
So, So that's where I start is DEB, zinc, you know, and a basic practitioner here will do that if they don't want to go to pay for like Lisa or somebody like that. Okay.
Mhm.
So I do have like a little list. I get some of those basic things. I do offer them, of course, the gene snip. We do an organics acid test so that we can see neurotransmitter levels, right? Let's see what's really going on with this body. But do I have people that really want to get off their meds, but they can't afford all the testing? Absolutely. So I educate them on everything. All of these things impact your genes and your mental health. Testing will allow us to not guess, but we'll start the basics. Digestive health, daily essentials kit, omegas, right? Some of those things that are around it. And then once I'm going okay with that, and they can really, it's proved to me that they can live in the natural world, I will help them. Then we move to the next step of start moving their meds.
Mhm.
I've had people tell me that once they get going and a month into supplements in their diet, their lifestyle change, that they know they don't need their meds. Because they feel so much better because of even the side effects of the meds, right?
Mhm.
And that's super fun. I think I have two kiddos that I saw, teenagers, when I first started doing this. It was probably a year or 2 years when I was into this. And the one child came to me and he was in 5th grade. And he was the kid that was flipping desks, you know, on 5 medications. Police were at the school at least once a week. They said that they were there. When I talked to the school, every week since he was in kindergarten. Mom said that was probably true. She didn't know, right? And I sent them home with, like, you know, the daily essentials, a bottle of aloe. I said, okay, let's just start this. And a week later, she came back and she's like, I need more aloe. He likes it. He's going to take it, right? I'm like, okay, great. We then, over the course of the summer, I said to him, because he was pretty defiant, right? I think we should start by removing bread or milk, right? Let's just start here with some of the basics, right? Bread and noodles or milk. What do you want to do first?
Mhm.
And within a week, he couldn't believe how much better he felt. Now, by the end of the summer, and he actually told me, thank you, because he felt trapped in his body.
Mhm.
So at the end of the summer, he started 6th grade on no meds and on his supplements, okay? And in 6th grade, that was the first time he finally had best friends and sleepovers.
Wow.
He no longer had those 5 diagnoses. Do I think he still has some generalized anxiety? Absolutely. It's not perfect. But the mom was able to back away from the medical field, and they still are today. He's a senior in high school right now, and she stops in every once in a while just to tell us how well he's doing. He's went to the National Guard. It's great, right?
Nice.
So that was one. The other one that I think of was a young man, again, in his teenage years when we did this, and he was in a residential facility, and about 95% of the time he had suicidal ideation. So he was inpatient for probably 2 years at the time. And his mom called me, and they don't live around here, and that's not uncommon. It's normal in North Dakota that people will drive 3 or 4 hours to get to me, okay? Because there's nothing here. I mean, there's a few people, don't get me wrong. Yeah, you've been here, Cheryl. But when it comes to holistic mental health, I mean, Fargo is bigger in population than us, and I get people in Fargo and Bismarck. I now have a facility in Valley City where Jen Everly's at, and so she now gets them, right? Which is an hour from Fargo and not 3 hours. But so anyway, so his mom called me and said, well, would you do this for him? And I'm like, okay, he's in a residential facility. I said, okay, well, you can bring him in. I'm going to tell him what I think we can do. And if he wants to try, I will help him. Because one thing, those of you who know me, I have hope for everybody. Everybody that comes to the clinic, I have hope. We can help them somehow. Is it perfect? Maybe not. Is their life going to be better? I think so, you know? And so he came in and visited me, and he said, I want to do this. So what did we do? Daily essentials kit, omega, vitamin D, getting labs done. Let's start this.
Mhm.
Within 2 weeks, and he went back to his facility, he said to me, he goes, I'm down. It was like 30% of suicidal ideation. He hadn't ever remembered what it was like to like somebody or the world even a little bit, right? 2 more weeks later, he came to me, and at the beginning when he started, we did do the gene snip, okay? At the beginning when he started, we did the gene snip, we started the basics, we slowly started to change food, but remember he was living in a facility and they have to go by the rules. So we had to do a note to go grain and dairy free, right? And he now knows that when he eats grain, his reaction to it is suicidal ideation. Okay, so so in his gene snip, it also came back that he had the LEP gene, which tells us he needs TLS core, trim T, or something like that, okay? So he now takes that. He has a dairy and grain-free life. So he went from 2 years residential to getting out, learning how to drive a car and getting a job, right? Graduating high school. So it was huge success, and he's still on no medicine, and here we are years later. But so back to you, Dr. Schill, yes, we do see it. We have quite a few people that tell me they're going to talk to their doctor, and I visit with their doctor, or wham, they just stop it, right? And we do not want that. We want it to be weaned down, but it is super fun, because a lot of these families, even if we can take the edge off of the anxiety or turn the defiance down a little bit or increase the focusing a little bit, it is life-changing for them. And we have the products to do it.
Right. And if a patient does desire to titrate down, maybe the doctor is not so gun-ho, would be the best suggestion for someone, obviously we're not their doctors on this call, but would it be the best suggestion to go to their pharmacist and say, I'm desiring to titrate down? Would a pharmacy be able to guide them a little bit depending on what the drug is as far as the level of titrating down once you do support them? I'm just curious as to.
Okay. So some pharmacists will and some won't. That's kind of what my experience is. I actually will help them in their area find somebody that will help them go down.
Yeah.
Because obviously there's Lisa Watkins everywhere, right? So I help somebody that has experience with it.
Right.
Or help them find somebody that does, yeah.
And then last but not least, I have one more question. On the same note, the L-tryptophan, which we know, gives the body more serotonin, and we had the individual product, and now they made the turn down. How are you using that in your practice?
I miss my L-tryptophan.
Yeah, I do too.
Okay, so if we give the amount of L-tryptophan in our turn down, they would have loose stools from the magnesium, right? It's just not the right blend. I do use the turn down. Now, at times, I do have another line that I carry so that I can have my L-tryptophan, but I have seen the B vitamins. So I think of somebody, who would I use L-tryptophan for? Panic disorder, right? Somebody with that high anxiety, seems like high anxiety. So if I have Market America products, I'm going to bombard them with B vitamins and magnesium, right? Let's calm these people down. And if they're adults, Bliss is wonderful, right? Bliss and Axe are great. But the other thing that I've noticed with panic is I can take turn down and turn up and blend them. So I have a lot of teenagers who carry both of those packets with them, and my daughter, one of them, and they will dump half and half in a water bottle when they start to feel anxious. If they just take the turn down, great. But we have found that the turn up just helps with those extra B vitamins and that focusing as well. You're right, 5-HTP, L-tryptophan, some of those other supplements, I still love them. We can do a lot though with B vitamins and magnesium. I would say that the average person that comes to me with anxiety and depression we know they don't need L-tryptophan. We can change their diet and get basic nutrients and get their gut working, and they'll be fine. It's just that it's so hard and they want a quick fix, right?
Right, and that's where
And
the
so-
L-tryptophan comes in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
the core, would you use the core as well because of the serotonin? Yeah.
Yeah, I like core too. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
When I have it on my shelf, right?
Yeah.
I purposely took that one out of the slides tonight just because it's on back order.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
thank you. That was very helpful. I appreciate it, Valerie.
Thank you.
Awesome job, Valerie. All right, good information tonight, right, you guys? She's amazing. So, all right, so I'm going to just share. Does anybody have another question before we're done? I want to share with you. Okay, go ahead. You got to unmute yourself, Jessica.
Thank you. So I just wanted to know, as far as your recommendation for the turn up, because I just ordered it more for mental focus and just energy. Do you suggest we take that first thing in the morning with the daily essentials?
If you think that you need it with the daily essentials, sometimes when people take daily essentials right away in the morning, they don't need the turn up as well, and they might take it late morning or right after lunch, right?
That's what I would agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
Around lunchtime, it'll carry you through. Unless you really need your brain to be like on, maybe you're taking a test or something's going on. I will share a testimonial about that product. I was out in Seattle and I had traveled a lot, and I did a back-to-back product training, local, like several days of lectures, and I was whooped. And the last day was like a 6-hour, like double training. And I was like, oh. And I'm sensitive to anything with caffeine, extremely, okay? Like any of those kind of things put me like jitters like crazy. So I'm so nervous, but Mylan Moore's wife had it in stock, and she's like, you need to try this. I said, all right, I'll try it. And it was like, wow, I couldn't believe it. I had so much mental cognitive function and so much energy. It carried me through, and I was like hitting the wall, really tired. So I love that product, and definitely for me, because I have a bit of attention deficit. I'm like, I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm over here, and then 5 minutes second I'm over there, and yeah, the turn up really, really helps with that for sure.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Anything else?
Can I ask a quick question for one of my guests?
Yes.
Okay. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. It's because she texted me because something happened to her computer and it shut off. She asked that for sleep trouble, is melatonin okay for her daughter is 7 years old, I believe, because that's what her pediatrician told her to start taking. Do you recommend something other than that? And if she's a fussy eater, what she's taking the multivitamin DNA miracles. Is there something else you recommend, like the greens?
Okay. So I can answer part of this, and then she might need to have a practitioner help her some too.
Okay.
But in general, I believe in having the body produce its own melatonin. In my clinic, I do not supplement melatonin. We don't carry it out on our shelves. We don't suggest it. And why is that? Because we have seen the side effects of rage and whatnot from it so many times. And when you even Google it, it says right on there. A lot of the melatonin products say, of course, not intended for children. I know pediatricians suggest it all the time. I can't ever tell somebody to not follow what their doctor says, okay? Melatonin is designed to take it a couple of days at a time. It is not designed for nightly use for years. So, but I highly suggest to find products to build it. So what are some products that build melatonin? B vitamins, right? Magnesium, L-tryptophan, 5-HTP. We don't have 5-HTP. We have turn down. We have the DNA Multi Plus has that methylated B vitamin in it, and that will help build it. When you think of sleep, having a hard time falling asleep is typically related to low B vitamins. Staying asleep, we might need some more with amino acids, and that is where I use turn down more, magnesium. When you look at the signs of magnesium deficiency, a lot of people are like, oh yeah, I got a lot of those, right? So let's start with some of the basic vitamins and minerals. On to picky eating. Picky eating to me is typically a digestive issue. If you ever get a chance to, that could be a whole nother tack, digestive health, right?
Mhm.
And when I specifically do a tack on children's digestive health, picky eating is probably, something that I talk the most about, just because that's one of our issues. So we got to think of where the picky eating is coming from. We don't know without testing, but when we got to guess at some of these, we might think that there's something along the lines of leaky gut. They're having a hard time with the food, they're reacting to it. Picky eating, as I talked about a little bit ago, can be low zinc. So the DNA Multi Plus, again, has that methylated B, no copper, more zinc. Zinc increases taste buds. Now with that, I also love our aloe juice, or our fiber and healing. Our fiber is such a great blend. And I don't know about any of you adults that are mixing your fiber powder with trim tea right now. Oh my gosh, it's like crack in my office. Every day, everybody's like, look what I got. It's like, great. I'm glad you're pooping good, right? But so those are some of the things that I suggest. Heal the guts, get some nutrients in. And that was the very quick answer to that. Okay. If they were my patient, I'd be like, we're going to work on diet, but we don't start with diet with picky eating. We start with aloe juice, digestive enzymes, flora melts, right? We have a lot of great products.
Yeah, probiotics.
Yep. Yeah, we
Thank
have
you.
a lot of great products. Yep.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right. Okay, well, awesome job. Thank you, Val. We just appreciate you. We need to bring her back, don't we? We need to get her back.
Yeah, definitely. Yes.
Absolutely. We just really, really appreciate you doing that. I want to bring up really quickly here. I just want to share with you what we have going on for next week. We have actually a sexual health improvement talk. How exciting is that, you guys? We're going to have Organic Nikki, our doctor, or our nurse. She's an IV therapy nurse, and she's going to be talking on this subject. And she's got some great information for this. And so it's going to be awesome, you guys. So you're going to learn a lot. The flyer is already out to everybody, so you can start getting them from the people that you're on here with. Again, we're at 7 o'clock that we'll be doing this. You can kind of take a look at this flyer and see, but it's going to be fun. So it's going to be a fun talk. And, we're going to learn a lot. So I'm very excited about that. So you'll be able to get that 7 o'clock next week. We do this every week right here at 7 o'clock. So we're excited. Our time, 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So, all right, you guys. So I want to just thank Val so much for hopping on here. We really appreciate you. Let's bring you back soon. And it was awesome. And we'll see you guys next week. And of course, if you want any products or you want anything, please see the person that invited you here, and they can direct you in the right direction. So thanks, you guys. Good night. Good night, Val.
Thank you, Val.
Thank you, Val. Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Thank you, Val.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Val.
Thanks,
Good
Val.
night.
Come back.
Good night.
Good night.
Stop the Facebook Live.
They'll just go. They'll just go.
Okay.
I'll have to